Welcome students of Form 2, A and B. Welcome to this video about global factors influencing tourism. And we're talking right now about chapter 5, paragraph 2 of chapter 5. And if you have your book in front of you, that's always handy. So take it in front of you so you know what we're talking about. And we are talking right now about global factors, so worldwide, influencing tourism. So global factors having an influence on tourism. And with global, we of course mean worldwide. So global factors influencing tourism, we mean by this worldwide. Yeah? Okay. What is the learning outcome? When we talk about the learning outcome of this paragraph, we're talking about what should you be able to do and what should you be able to perform if we are done with this paragraph. And these are also called the learning outcomes. The learning outcomes is when you've studied this paragraph, when you've listened to this video, what must you be able to do? What must you be able to perform? And this is called outlining, more than just identifying or naming, and less than describing or explaining. And what do you have to outline? Global factors that affect the tourist industry in the region. And we're talking right now about global factors. Global factors that affect the tourist industry where in the region. And we're talking about the Caribbean region, of course. So global factors that affect the tourist industry in the region. And again, if you have your book, take chapter 5 in front of you, part 5, and look at this paragraph, actually part 2. Yeah, the learning outcomes. In this section, we'll learn to outline the global factors that affect the tourist industry in our region of the Caribbean. Terrorism. You guys are all born after 9/11, after 11th of September 2001. But there is a period for and there's a period after 2001. So I'm now going to explain some things about that. So since the terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center on September 11, 2001, security at airports has become much tighter. And why? It's hard to fathom, but we used to be able to arrive at the airport just minutes before a flight. We'd keep our shoes and coats on, a simple metal detector, and anyone could go right to the gate without a boarding pass or even showing an ID. This is before 2001. And the year 2001 and the month of the September changed this for the whole of the world. In 2001, something happened, and because of that, this easy way of traveling changed. So there's a way of traveling before 2001, and especially in the air, there's a way of traveling after 2001. Yes, and nowadays, travelers often stand in long lines at security checkpoints with wait times that can exceed an hour. Yeah, so you have to stand in long lines, security checkpoints, and sometimes you have to wait for an hour. You take off your shoes, empty your pockets, yeah, and take laptops and other devices off carry-on bags. Yes, and we have full body scanners, and we can only can take a limited amount of liquids. This is after 2001. After 2001, this is the way we travel. Long lines before security. You have to show your passport, your ID. You can only take a maximum amount of liquids. Full body scanners, 3D imaging of our x-rays of our luggage. And this is what happened after 2001. The way of traveling and the security measures and the easiness, the ease of traveling has decreased about. Yes, even before 2001, we were allowed knives of 4 inches length on board, Yes. And if they found knives, they would give them right back to them. Yeah. And the jackers of the airplanes, the airplane jackers, had passed all the security layers of our aviation security system. So those airplanes that went into the World Trade Centers, yeah, they were hijacked by terrorists, but those terrorists could go through the security measures with ease because they only had knives, perhaps plastic ones, perhaps wooden ones, and this they used to hijack the airplanes on the 11th of September 2001. And they could do that because the security measures before 2001, were not very strict. So they could pass our security system with ease. They could just bring their knives, and if they were found out, you would just go into the airplane, but your knives would have been taken from you. But the terrorists that jacked the planes, that hijacked the airplanes, could go just through our security measures, because in those days the security measures were not that strict actually. Yes, here we see the hijackers of the airplanes, and you see the date also, 9/11/01. So these are two, this person and this person. We know they hijacked the airplanes and they flew them into the World Trade Centers. Yes, but since the terrorist attack of these guys, security at airports has become much tighter because we don't want something like that happening ever again. So the security at airports has become much tighter. Individuals and hand luggage must pass through scanning machines, and luggage sometimes opened and searched, and this is time consuming and leads to long lines, queues, yeah, and a long security check-in. And most international airlines require passengers to arrive for check-in 3 hours before the flight is due to leave. Yeah, and a line or a queue in Papiamento would be queru or fila. If you have a better word for it, please let me know below this video. Yes, so after 9/11, the security measures on the airports has become way more tighter. Your luggage will be opened, you will receive a body scan, your luggage will be x-rayed, you have to show your ID, long queues, long filas, long querunan, ja, die lanti e check-in and boarding the airplane. Ja. En eerst aqui, dat doe maar hoop tempo. All of this is very time consuming. All of this takes a lot of time. All those security measures after after 9/11, because we want to prevent a terrorist attack like that from happening ever again. Yes, you have to self-check-in, you have to wait for a long time. All of this is very time consuming and creates long lines. Yes, I hope I've made that clear. Then the thought of a terrorist attack is enough to put some people off the idea by traveling by air altogether. And even in 2016, my mother-in-law arrived at that airport. Yeah, some 8 years ago, we had a terrorist attack on Brussels airport. Yeah, so the fear that someday we'll have a terrorist attack again is still there with some people, some tourists. Yeah? And you can count on it when something like that would happen again, less and less people would be traveling by air. So the thought of a terrorist attack, like happened 8 years ago, is enough for some people to put off the idea of traveling by air altogether. Yeah. So these are a lot of the air flights from Paris and the Netherlands to the Caribbean. And when people are afraid, people would travel like this way less worldwide. And the time that now has to be spent for queuing or for the various stages of security that deters them from flying. So for some, they're afraid something like this will happen again. Others are just like annoyed by the consequences of something like this happening again, and the consequences of the tighter security measures. Some people are just annoyed or deterred from flying because they know they have to wait for a long time, and they know they have to go under through a lot of security measures. And also this deters some people from flying. And in Dutch would say weerhoudt sommige mensen van vliegen, would say in English. Yeah, and this is all because of the etappen de seguridad, the stages of security. Nos llama skidding papiamento, etappen de seguridad. The stages of security. And for some people, they are deterred because of this from flying altogether, because you have to go through all kinds of stages of security, like you can see here. And like you can see here, one of them, perhaps you've done it yourself, to put off your clothing and your shoes and your wallet into a small box, and it is x-rayed. Yeah, and then you will receive your stuff back again, like you can see here. And some people are deterred from flying because of these security measures. And again, the long queues, the long lines. And some people put some people off of the idea of traveling by air. These tight security measures, like you can see here, has been more tight and more tighter and made more tighter since 9/11 2001. Recession, also very important. When economies around the world are growing, the crece, people are generally more able to earn money and have greater amounts of disposable income. Disposable income is the income that you can spend freely, besides paying your taxes, paying your rent, and doing groceries. Yes, very important concept. Disposable income. Entrada disponível. Nós chamamos esse aqui de papiamento. So this is the entrada disponível is your income that you can spend freely, besides paying rent, paying your taxes, and doing your groceries. Yeah, and this people have more when there's a growing economy, economía creciente. However, economies can also shrink, and then you have less disposable income. If economies shrink, you have less disposable income. So sometimes economy shrinks, economía tiende a reducir, yeah, and such times are known as recessions, and recessions can have very far-reaching consequences. Yeah, recession porting consequencias grandi para todo país den Caribbean, den mundo actualmente. Yeah, so there can be very far-reaching consequences of a recession. Worldwide, the consequences of a recession are really big. A recession. So if the economy shrinks, we can have a recession, and there are many far-reaching consequences of a recession, and it can mean that people will spend less money in the Caribbean, less dollars, for instance, and they will spend it less during their vacation in the Caribbean. Their dollars or whatever currency they use, they will spend less. And the dollar for Aruba, for Sint Maarten, but also for Curaçao, is of course a very important currency. In recessions, or in a recession, more of people's money is used up in meeting basic needs. So they have less entrada disponível. They have less disposable income. Planned tourist trips may be abandoned or scaled back, with people taking a holiday closer to their home, like in Western Europe, or in Canada, or in the United States. That is less expensive. So they will less be traveling like this, and there will be more traveling in Western Europe at home. Yeah? They will more likely stay here instead of taking the journey there. Instead of that, they will just stay in Western Europe, or they will stay in the United States, or they will stay in Canada, or they will stay in Brazil, to name a few countries. They will stay there, Because it's less expensive, and closer to home, because they have less disposable income. Yes, and they will less do this. A worldwide recession, what sometimes happens, people, it sometimes happens that the whole world has a economia reductie, yeah, a recession del mundo, also impacts, yeah, a worldwide recession, like in the picture here, also impacts businesses and financial institutions. So it impacts the whole world in businesses, financial institutions. And that it happens means, yeah, there's a worldwide recession. People will take less trips like these. They will not travel to the Caribbean and not watch the sun going under at a beach in Curacao and not spend their money. So this has a big consequence for our region if something like this, a recession, happens. It has major consequences, mainly people not flying to the Caribbean and people not spending their money but staying closer to home, like you can see here, because that is less expensive. Many Caribbean countries rely on tourism for a large part of their foreign exchange earnings. So if you have dollars, or you have guilders, or you have euros, or you have dollars, or you have reais from Brazil, yeah, they spend it less because they come less to the Caribbean. And also businesses within the tourism industry decrease operation or close down. This affects those directly employed in tourism and those who work is indirectly in areas such as transport, indirectly related such as transport and agriculture. Yeah. So if a recession happens, it's not just only the resorts and the beaches that are affected and the restaurants and the hotels, but also work that is indirectly related, such as transport and agriculture. Yeah, transport, tourism, certain supermarkets that rely on tourists. Yeah, taxis that drive tourists all around the island. Yeah, if a recession happens, transport and foreign exchange also is negatively affected by a recession. So these have huge consequences for these industries that are actually indirectly related to tourism, but still related and still to a large extent very dependent on the income from the tourists. Yeah, so a recession influences tourist activities like showing people around with music, foreign exchange, but also regular transport that for a large extent depends on the income that tourists give them. Yeah, and we know for sure that one day an economic recession will happen again. So again, look at the learning outcomes, outline global factors that affect the tourist industry in the region. Keep this in the back of your mind when studying the paragraph. If you want to subscribe, you can do that below. If you have a question, you can also do that below or ask me during class. And for now, a very well meant goodbye.